apologize. I was just on a call with Polk County. Love Polk County. If you've never been there, you gotta go and stuff. You know, they throw a mean Christmas party and stuff. So I was privileged to be a part of that. Democrats, hello. Good evening. My name is James Manning. I am Oregon State Senator from Senate District 7. That includes Northwest Eugene, Elmira, the beautiful city of Veneta, and a whole bunch of farmland in there too. So I brag all the time in the Senate that I have the best Senate district because it's urban and rural. So when some of my Republican colleagues talk about the urban-rural divide, I'm like, no. I have urban and rural, and you know what? I fight just as hard for my farmers as I do for people that live on the inner city. One of the things I found out about my farmers, very much environmentally conscious, you know, because they have to be careful what they put in the ground. They have to be careful of what they use, because if you use pesticides on there, you're poisoning your crops and you can't sell them, you know. So some of these things just make pretty good sense. Unfortunately, we have some folks I won't call Republicans by name, but they tend to want to divide. That's not what Oregon is about. Oregon's strength is involved in its diversity, its inclusivity. That's what makes Oregon such a great place to be. I'm a former police officer. I'm a former state penitentiary corrections officer, private investigator. I served in the United States Army over 24 years. I'm a former Army drill sergeant. I'm a former U.S. Army Assistant Inspector General. And my last overseas assignment, I was a senior enlisted liaison to the Australia-New Zealand Defense Force. At the time I was in Australia, President Bush W. was in office. And when he came to visit Australia, I wound up being a part of his security detail. Now, here's the thing, a little secret that everybody don't know. As part of his security detail, I drove in its motorcade, but I guarded his clothes. That's about as close as I got to him, you know, but that's fine. You know, everybody needs clean underwear, right? So why am I running for Secretary of State? I am running to restore the trust and integrity of the office. I am running to make sure that I defend democracy, which is under attack. I'm running to preserve vote by mail. I'm running to make sure that we are protecting our elections workers and making sure that all of the data and the votes are secure. I think that that is fundamentally one of the biggest jobs of Secretary of State, but it's not the only job. As a member of the State Land Board, I am committed to not selling any of our public lands, waterways, or our public forests. That's why I'm the only candidate in this field that have been endorsed by the Sierra Club of Oregon, 350 Salem, and former Congressman Peter DeFazio. When I was EWEB commissioner, before I was blessed and fortunate to have this seat in the Oregon State Senate, I was an EWEB commissioner, Eugene Water and Electric Board. Nestle came to one of our board meetings, and I remember they were trying to purchase water rights on the McKenzie River. McKenzie River is a sole water source for Eugene. And when they presented their proposal, I said, let me see if I understand this correctly. You want me to sell you our water rights so you can sell it back to us. It made absolutely no sense. So I led the charge to vote it down, and my other EWEB colleagues followed suit. Nestle had been in a position where they had purchased water rights on the Columbia River, and in those areas, they completely decimated it. So they wanted to come back and move down and take ours. I am committed today and forever to make sure that that young lady there has the enjoyment of our natural resources, and generations yet to come, critically important to me. So, there are a number of other things that I can talk about. How I've been 8 years in the Oregon State Senate, second concurrent term, President Pro Tem, first time voted in on a bipartisan. Last year ran, was overwhelmingly, unanimously voted in. So even my Republican colleagues feel or know that I'm the one with the highest degree of integrity, honesty, and that when I say give my word, they know that my word is very valuable and they know I'll stand by it. So I don't learn by talking, I learn by listening. So I want to hear from you. What questions do you have of me?
All right, are there any questions for Senator Manning? Keith.
Jenny?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask if you've done anything to expand or protect the vote while you've been in the Senate.
Great question, and thank you for that. Actually, I have. One of the things, you notice now that Oregon has ballot paid postage paid ballot return envelopes. Yeah. That was a bill I introduced a few years ago. And Secretary Fagan, once we passed it, she put it in. And now Oregon has the highest voter participation rate in the nation. Yeah. Reason that I introduced that bill is that we have people that don't have access to a ballot drop box. We have people that live in rural and frontier counties that don't have access to a ballot drop box. I go out in my district and other places and I visit senior centers. One senior center I visit, the employees there were telling them that they couldn't vote. I thought that was disgusting. I thought that was terrible. So how do I make sure that they can? The postage prepaid ballot return envelope, it worked. They're absolutely able to do that. Now I'm looking at people that are disabled and can't get out. It helps them. Thus, we have the highest voter participation rate in this nation. Another thing that I've done, and we've done in the Senate and in the legislature, like we have motor voter, we expanded that to people that apply for the Oregon Health Plan. Once they apply, they're automatically registered. This year, I introduced a bill that will allow college and university students, first time, that don't have a driver's license or a state ID, once they enroll in college, they will automatically be enrolled as voters. That's going to take a little work. I didn't realize that I ran into a little hiccup. Privacy questions came into play, and then you're talking about Department of Revenue, but those things will be worked out. I'm looking for every way I can. When you talk about access to the ballot, then people with disabilities, visually impaired. I have a younger brother, doesn't live here, but he's high function, autistic, and he's blind, but he can still vote. So Oregonians that are experiencing some of those same things, there is a method online that has a tool there, but we need to make it more easier. We've expanded into different languages, common languages that are here in Oregon. If you are an Oregonian and you qualify and you are entitled, you should have access to cast your ballot. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at. How do we make sure that the Secretary of State's office is listening to the voters? That's what I love to do. I'm not a politician. I know how to serve. I served in law enforcement. I served in the United States Army. I have been privileged to serve as a Eugene Water and Electric Board Commissioner, and I am honored to be served as a Oregon State Senate for 8 years. One of the bills that I am so proud that I've done is a universal healthcare single payer. I worked on it for 7 years. When I was attending a conference back east, and Congressman DeFazio announced that he was resigning, I was receiving all kinds of calls. saying that Peter is resigning, retiring from office. You should run for Congress. You should run for Congress. And I was getting all kind of calls in. My universal health care bill hadn't made it across the finish line yet. And I thought about it. If I was a politician, win, lose, or draw, that was an opportunity to run for Congress. Or that universal health care bill, which was more important to me. I felt that if I did not stay, it wouldn't get across the finish line. The choice was easy for me. I stayed, and I got that bill across the finish line. So I guesstimate within the next 2 to 5 years, Oregon will be the first state in the nation to have a universal healthcare single-payer system. No out-of-pocket, no copay, dental, vision, hearing, all inclusive. I feel pretty good about that. So then someone asked me, well then, why don't you run for governor? I'm not running for governor. I'm running for Secretary of State. If I was looking at the governorship, I would not be an effective Secretary of State because I wouldn't be concentrating on what's important to you. That's why I'm running. I'm not a politician, public servant, that's who I am. Yes.
First, Senator Manning, thank you for all your work on the health care bill and moving that forward. Fingers crossed. Okay. Another important function of Secretary of State's office is as auditor of all of the other state agencies. And that really matters these days, right? And that is where really you get the trust of the people. What are your thoughts on that function?
Thank you. During my time in the United States Army, certain people get selected by the general to attend the U.S. Army Inspector General University. I was one of those selected. I attended, I graduated, and I served as an Assistant Inspector General. I conducted audits nationally and internationally. We have someone that can attest to the Inspector General, the thoroughness of their audits that they do. Audits can do a lot of good things. One is that they can enhance and show the good work that's being done, but they can also identify those shortcomings of those agencies and departments. We appropriate a lot of money to the different divisions and agencies out there. And sometimes when we appropriate that money, I'm not sure that it's doing what it was entirely intended to do. As an experienced auditor with years of experience, I intend to use that tool to not demonize the departments and stuff. I don't do that. I don't go out to beat them, but I want to help improve that. I want to find out what are those gaps that we have and how do we need to fix them so that they work for Oregonians the way they were intended to do. Not only that, is to make sure that the process is transparent and there is a maximum level of accountability. I hold myself accountable to everything I do, and I expect nothing less than those agencies and divisions and departments that are working on behalf of Oregonians. A couple of those divisions or departments, ODOT. Every year for 8 years, I've been hearing contracting issues between women and minority-owned businesses with ODOT. I'm not going in there looking to demonize ODOT, but we need to put some light on that to find out what's going on so we don't hear these complaints and make sure that we are accountable. If those things that are broke, we need to fix them. I'm sure that a lot of people have heard about the Oregon Employment Department, where people have been calling me saying they have been applying and are not getting their money. Some people have received eviction notices. I understand that they're going on a new system, things are changing. The people need to understand why this is going on. I think that would be a great opportunity for the Employment Division to come out and be very vocal, open, and say, here are the problems and here's how we fix it, and then here's how we're gonna make you whole. Because it does nothing good to say we're gonna fix it if you don't make the people whole. That means that we got to stop these evictions that are going on, and we got to stop Oregonians from hurting. I want to help them do that. We have a crisis in our medical system. In Eugene, Peace Health closed the only hospital that Eugene had. And with that closure, they also took away their urgent care centers. We got a large population that has no medical facilities, but they're getting taxpayer dollars. I want to work with the Oregon Health Authority to uncover that, unravel that. Why are we having this? Because you deserve access to great quality health care, and you should not go broke, and you should not be the one traveling hours and hours away for a medical appointment. Those are some of the things that I plan to work on and make sure that they're transparent, and more importantly, those that need to be held accountable, to include myself, are accountable, and how we fix it. We don't want to demonize, we want the problem solved.
Awesome. We have two questions online, but Jenny, did you get your question first before?
Well, it was actually the one that was just asked.
Oh.
Although I want to ask one further thing on the healthcare thing. My supplemental insurance company now owns my doctor's clinic in the Corvallis Clinic. So I no longer can trust my doctor because they're being told what to do by my insurance company. So I don't know how we solve that problem. It should be illegal.
Yeah, we had a bill this past session. There were a lot of docs that were reaching out to me and my colleagues about this bill. They wanted to make sure that these corporations that are purchasing all of these medical facilities now, where it has to do with your insurance. If you have good insurance, excellent insurance, you go in, and even though you don't need to stay overnight, they say, well, this person probably needs to stay overnight. If you go in there, you don't have great insurance, and you should stay overnight, they're encouraging them, patch them up, and get them out the door. Yeah. That's wrong. That is criminal. And we had a bill that was going to fix that. Unfortunately, it didn't get over the finish line, but I encourage that it's going to come back again, because Oregonians should not be suffering at the hand because someone want to make dollars off of your health care, off of you as a person and your family. That is criminal. As Secretary of State, I will expose that and hold them accountable.
Awesome.